What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another deck profile here on TCG University for the card game UniVersus. My name's Tam, and today I'm going to be going over James's Vicious deck that he played for the Twitch Picks Campus Championship. So, if you like the deck, make sure you check out the playlist for the entire Campus Championship out here on the channel. Let's jump into it. All right, so this is Vicious. He's the main antagonist for the anime Cowboy Bebop. And if any of you have not seen one of my profiles, instead of just listing off the cards and saying what their effects are, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be telling you, kind of giving you an elevator pitch of how the deck works and how the cards interact with each other. And so, what does this Vicious deck want to do? The elevator pitch for this Vicious deck is it wants to flip over your opponent's entire board. It wants to make big damage. And it wants to just kill you with a couple of attacks as opposed to playing a bunch of little attacks. And the more that you don't interact with Vicious, the better off his game plan is. So if you interact and you stop what it is that he's doing, then he's just going to have a rough time and he's actually going to play the game. If you don't interact with Vicious, he's just going to run you over. So let's talk about the list. So as I said, this list is under Earth, and we want to flip all of our opponent's foundations. And so we're playing the card Matricide. This card gets absolutely massive. It gets +1/+1 for every one of my opponent's face down foundations. Vicious is flipping cards. We've got cards in here that flip cards, and so this card is one of the main win conditions of the deck. Combos with 2 weapons, and so the rest of our deck is weapons, just like our other win condition, From Science with Love. As opposed to getting +1/+1 for every face down, From Science with Love actually gets multiple X equals the number of face downs, and then he can just snap some free momentum based on the number of assets that he plays. So we're playing a couple of assets, I believe it's 6. Ooh, double check in. Nope, just kidding, 5. And so at most we can just snap 5 momentum, and that's even if that's if we don't touch our opponent at all. And then so, it's a 4 high for 7 inside of Vicious 5 times. It's just going to be enough to kill anybody. We're playing 3 Rook Splitter. Rook Splitter is just more flip hate. Your opponent very, very, very rarely will want to discard the card, because if they discard a card, it means that they can't block, and if they can't block, Vicious is going to hit you for even more damage and then draw additional cards. And so, just really, really strong effect when we combine these two. It's a 4 mid for 7 inside of Vicious that draws you a card, has stun 2, makes him flip 2. Vicious flips another one, and so even if it was just like we'll just say From Science with Love, Rook Splitter, Matricide, right? So I flip 1 of my opponent's foundations here off of Vicious. I flip 2 off of Rook Splitter, flip 1 here. I flip 4. Now this is a 10 high for 10 on my 3rd attack, and you had to block these. You're not blocking this one. Beautiful, beautiful combo piece for the Matricide finish. Continuing our combo pieces, we're playing 4 Truculent World. This says in my next check it's +1, so Matricide's easier to play. And it says discard a card to your attack, it's +1 damage for each of my opponent's face down. So it's basically Matricide, but discard as a cost as opposed to playing a combo. And is also a 3 high for 5, so it's 3 high for 1 million. 3 high for 7 inside of Vicious, 3 high for X if you include the discard for the damage. Our next deck is 4 Pilgrimage of Anthropolis. This card is just extra flip, so instead of so it counts as 2 flips for the Matricide play that we want to do. And then if they have more face downs, it replaces. If they have 3 or more face downs, it replaces itself. You just get to draw an additional card. These 2 cards were just perfectly made for Vicious' entire kit. And I'd be surprised if this type of deck does not jump into the spotlight here in the next upcoming meta. Last attack in our deck is just Triple Cathedral Standoff. Really, the big thing about this deck, this card, is it just says draw 2, and it's got a really good momentum out. Maybe I can't find one of my From Science with Loves, and so I just discard my momentum in order to burn them 5. To lose 5 vitality. It's closed out so many games here locally that you have to make sure that you block everything, because, once again, if you just don't interact with Vicious, if you don't stop his attacks, he's just going to murder you. So onto the that's the action or attacks. That's how we kill people. Onto the actions for a little bit of support. We're playing for 3 of the path. Your path ends here. We're not playing any throws. So the main thing that you do with this, honestly, is just block and make them flip stuff or discard cards so that Vicious works on your turn. As a desperation play, we can enhance and give it minus damage, but they're probably going to flip to do that, or you'll play it and then plus damage. There's not quite enough flipping inside of the deck to make sure that they flip to make sure that you get the guaranteed damage through. Plus, like I said, we're not playing throws, and so it's possible that we might not get the damage anyways. Just like with your path ends here, we're playing one stop. Stop just says end your turn because I want to play cards on my turn. We have no reversals. We have no real big plays on my opponent's turn. This is like one of the biggest ones. Any time that you want to do your really awesome combo deck, make sure that you're including stops so just to end their turn. Hey, stop playing the game I want to play. On the assets, we're playing 5 unique assets. We're playing 1 Omega Sword and an Elk Shield. This is kind of an extra card in our hand because we can block with it from our staging area. For the same reason, we're playing 1 Cormorant. This is an extra card that we get to block with from our staging area, and it feels good to bring these to sit here with these cards. My opponent has to maybe not push as hard because at any point I can block with this and take 1 damage, or block with this and breaker to them to try and end their turn. Very, very similarly to stop. And so these 2 cards just sitting here are just kind of nuclear deterrents. Up next, we've got 1 Cafziel. Cafziel is the way you pronounce that. So Vicious lets my opponent pick the thing that they want to flip, and so a lot of times they're probably going to keep their best card face up. Well, Cafziel says I'm going to seal their best card, and then Vicious, I'll flip probably some other card, and so I lock down a card every turn cycle in order to make sure that I can do some cool stuff. Or if they happen to play any abilities on a foundation that has not been flipped, I can check a 4 and give it -1 speed. Not amazing, but I think the sealing part's the best part of this card. I mean, why is Tim 2 so good, right? 1 Coludus. This card says that if one of my attacks hit, I'm going to flip another one of your cards. It's just another copy of Vicious. Very, very strong. We could probably play more of this if we weren't playing the From Signs with Love plan. Or honestly, I don't know. I personally, if I'd have made this deck, I probably would put this up at a 2 of. I think this card's so unbelievably strong because, well, just like Cafziel, I get to pick. Unlike Vicious, I get to pick. And then my last card is Requiem. Requiem does 2 very good things. It says his attack gets +1 damage for each of my opponent's foundations, just as a free enhance once per turn, and then enhance commit that gets -damage, and then my opponent can flip 1 foundation to cancel this. It's just good enough as a 3/6 1 mid block to just be useful in every spot on the in the game, on top of my deck, in my hand, on the field. And so I guess the only part that it's not good in is in my discard pile, but that happens. Speaking of wanting it to be in my discard pile, the next card that I want to talk about, oh, I put them in the wrong order. The next card I want to talk about is actually these 2 cards. I want to talk about the Guardian of the Spirit Sword. This card says flip discard a card, pick up any of the 5 assets that we play, as well as the key to humanity's freedom says enhance, remove, add an asset. You could play, destroy it afterwards. So if we do have a From Science with Love play that we need to make sure it happens, I can either set up with it for Guardian of the Spirit Sword, or I get to just add it in with key to humanity's freedom. Both really awesome cards, both at 1 of, just because the assets are so strong, so useful. So up next, I want to talk about how do I kill people a little bit more. And in order to do that, one of the big things that this deck, the issues this deck has, is we try to kill them on turn 2 and we run out of foundations. And so Folktale Storyteller, as a 3 of, respawn after you play it, build it back down into your staging area, says that because I have to play Matricide on a 7 diff, and sometimes if I check 2 3s in a row and I did not use my Folktale Story, I didn't play Folktale Storyteller, I'm just gonna lose. I can't commit out that many cards. And so playing Folktale means I have a little bit of a safety net, as well as Vicious has an issue with drawing cards, drawing the kill turn late in the game. And so Arranging a Deal says that I'm going to draw some additional stuff. Maybe it is a foundation, maybe it's not, but like the chances of this being an attack or chances of drawing a kill turn is significantly higher whenever you have cards that just say draw, not including Vicious, because they can interact with Vicious. They can't actually interact with this. As I'm at Desperation, I'll draw an additional card. I'll find the pieces I need. We're playing double 1 with Nature. Vicious does a really good job of pumping up damage, but all the damage in the world doesn't matter if my attacks get blocked, and that's where 1 with Nature comes in. I'm going to discard these really bad foundation cards out of my hand and give my opponent's block modifier +2, as well as damage. This is one of the strongest foundations in the entire game. If you can play these 3 symbols, you should be playing this card at least a 1 of, guaranteed. Guaranteed. The more that you want to push damage and less speed, you need to have 1 with Nature in order to counterbalance that. Turn your bad cards into good cards. Onto the flipping effect. So the goal of this deck, honestly, the elevator pitch is I need to flip all of my opponent's stuff so that I can combo them out with either Matricide or From Science with Love. And so the way that we do this is with Betrayer of 12. This card is actually just Vicious. Response commit after the block step of your attack. If it was blocked, draw a card. So if it wasn't blocked, I draw off of Vicious. If it was blocked, I draw off Betrayer of the 12. And then If it was not blocked, your opponent flips one of their foundations. So I'll flip one with this, and then when it doesn't block, it's not blocked, I'll draw a card and then flip an additional one. Really, really strong stuff. If you can find room for more of this card, please do. But at a 2 of, I think it was just fine. We're playing Double Commander of Outworld's Army. This card has a dual purpose. Number one, it says, don't stop hurting me. I want to live. As well as it flips some of my opponent's stuff. I get to pick the flip on this one. So even as I vicious on my opponent's turn, it's their attack. I will vicious, they'll flip one, and then they'll hit me with an attack, and I'll make them flip again. Another really cool combo that you can do with this is, because this card says unblocked attack, let's say that they reduce the damage so that you can't trigger the Commander of Outworld's Army. You can actually pay the 1 vitality, give their attack the 2 damage, and then, so they put their attack at 3 damage, right? You'll pay your 1 vitality, increase their attack by 2, now it's at 5, and then make them flip 1, then your attack's not blocked, so Vicious will let you draw an additional card to help you try and find other stuff. You flip this, they flip 1, next one gets -2 damage. And so there's a bit of a combo where if you think they're going to be trying to combo out on you, you can take in with these 2 cards, get a really solid advantage state going. Up next, we're playing Triple the Demonic Guard. It's a bit of a panic button. Enhance flip gets -1 damage for each of my opponent's face downs. Yes, I'm cutting 2 for every time that I flip this, so eventually this kind of just says, hey, I didn't actually pay the life on those. Just, hey, flip, negate 1 of the damage off of one of all of your attacks. And so this card is good, but it is a 2/6 non-block, and that non-block might be the thing that, yeah, it says minus damage, but if you draw it off the top of a vicious, then you're not blocking with it. In the same vein of Please Don't Kill Me, we've got 3 Eliminating the Van, Enhance, discard a card, +2 or -2 damage. Normally we're going to be doing the -2 because our attacks are so statted as it is, but giving everything 2 damage off of Vicious and another 2 damage off of Eliminating the Van, +4 damage on everything by getting rid of cards out of your hand is really, really strong. Up next, we've got double Overly Dramatic. Overly Dramatic is just kind of a staple under all 3 of these symbols, especially the Earth symbol. What this card says is if my opponent would attempt to move the speed or damage of any attack, my attack or your attack, I'm going to negate that thing. And it also negates things that, let's say that we had a card that said draw 2 card and then -2 damage. Well, it could minus damage, so I'll flip this and negate both the draw and the minus of the damage. So make sure that you are aware of what Overly Dramatic can and can't cancel. It can be a ton of stuff inside the game. We're playing Triple Solemn Exorcism. I found this card. This is a pet card of James's. It's not one of my cards, but there is some validity of having this card in the deck. It is a 1/5 with a 2 high block. If they attack with a weapon attack, and you block with it, it gets Breaker 2. This card does. And then if you have no cards in your hand, you get to draw an additional card. A lot of times whenever he was playing the deck, he would go all out and try and swing with as much as he can and sometimes leave himself handless, especially with all the enhanced discard a card, do this thing that we have in the deck with both Eliminating the Man and One with Nature. And so it's possible we just end up with no hand and then we draw an additional block, an additional card to kill them with. We're playing a double Sense of Morals. We're now into the, hey, here's all the extra stuff. And so just a bit of a staple. Stun could be the thing that makes or breaks your game. And being able, this says that they can't stun things, or else I'm going to guaranteed matricide them, because even if they stun 1, I just get to constantly ready this guy over and over and over and over and over again. And so I get to play the attack strings however I want. We're playing double Protecting the Protector. If my opponent would try and flip or touch any of the cards in my staging area, this card says stop that. And we don't have a ton of momentum outs. Yeah, we've got Cathedral Standoff and From Science with Love, but sometimes those cards don't happen, and having the protection for making sure that none of your stuff gets popped off, it's good enough. Double Pursuing a Vendetta. I don't want my things blown up, but if they do get blown up, I'll replace it with a better thing. 1, Cool and Focused. Blocking is really, really important in a character that says lose 3 vitality on every single attack. Lose 3 on all of my attacks, lose 2 on all of your attacks. And so if I can't block, I'm going to have an issue. And then resetting the speed is really good. The mill does not necessarily matter with this card. 1, War for Armageddon. It's a 2/4 with a 4 mid block, so essentially it doesn't have a block, but it also says selective flip. I'm going to flip something with responsibility. I don't have to trigger off of a Vicious to make it happen. 1, The Dark Side of Karma. This card's very, very good. It's just an on-board negate. That's really the best part about it. And then reset the speed if I absolutely need to. Very rarely will I use that. One Venomous, I think drawing cards is going to be all over inside of the next format, drawing or adding cards to your hand. And so with Venomous in the game, it is a playable while committed, stop your opponent from adding a thing at a response level. Really, really strong. I think this card should make a comeback in the 2020 UniVersus meta. And then my last card is Refusing to Let Go. It's just a solid one of a staple inside of every single deck. We return this deck's printed damage to printed, and then +2 or -2. If they reduce my damage by 1,000,000, I'll give them back to where 1,000,000 +2. Or they increase their attack by 1,000,000 -1,000,000 -2. And so just a really good defensive piece. Keep me alive. All right, you guys, so that was James's Vicious deck under Evil using the new DLC Matricide card. Let him know what you think of the cards down in the comments down below. What would you add? What would you take out? As well as check out the matches that we had out on the Twitch Picks Campus Championship for out here on the channel. Sorry, my mind's spaced. I was thinking about all the cool stuff we're going to be doing. So if you like that, please go out to patreon.com/TCGUniversity and support us out there at least the $1 level to get access to the Discord. You can have an entire conversation about James, or about Vicious with James. If Vicious is your favorite character, he is for plenty of people. Let him know. You guys play test together and figure out what's the best Vicious deck. So from all of us here at TCG University, thank you very much for watching the video and stay learned.